Here.
Fisher?
Here.
Did I get everyone?
Yes, thank you for that. All commissioners are present, and the next order of business, because at the last meeting, we were waiting for a full commission to discuss the appointment of the liaison to the Tree Advisory Committee. So I'll open that item up if there's anyone who's interested in serving or if we would like to have a discussion. Amy, did you have any thoughts about that as you were the commissioner, didn't have an opportunity to weigh in at the last meeting?
Well, and given that I've not been through appointments before, I don't have any strong opinions.
Perhaps we could ask staff to describe again the responsibilities of the Tree Advisory Committee and the times and frequency of the meetings.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. So the Tree Advisory Committee, it's an appointment really to be a liaison between the Tree Advisory Committee and the Planning Commission, to both keep the Tree Advisory Committee updated on things that the Planning Commission has looked at or projects before this board, as well as bring back information from that committee in terms of what they're working on. It meets once a month. It's 3:30 in the afternoon, and I was just trying to quickly look up. I can't recall which, let's see, it is I think it's the third Wednesday of each month. Would that have been the 21st? Yes, third Wednesday of each month at 3:30 p.m.
Commissioner Ryder?
Thank you for that. I appreciate the overview, and based on the meeting minutes, it appears that Chair Potter was interested in that position, and I don't have any qualms with that. If others are supportive, that seems like a fine appointment with me, but we can open for discussion. I'll leave that to you to decide.
Okay, so my recollection was that Vice Chair Bauer had indicated that perhaps she may be able to do it depending on whether we were going to be meeting in person or on Zoom. Is that correct?
I won't be able to do it if, we go back to the office, which it looks like we will, and they're still doing it at 3:30 in person. Or they're going to start doing it at 3:30 in person, because that means I'll be up in Santa Rosa at work, so I won't be able to make the meetings easily.
And the meetings will be in Zoom. They are on Zoom right now. We are looking at options for transitioning back to in person in the future, but there are physical changes that need to happen to the council chambers before that can happen. And obviously, we're still in a little bit of uncertainty with the COVID situation. So there is not a date set for returning to in-person meetings. So it's a little bit of an unknown whether in the, between now and next July. You would hope we'd be back in person, but I don't have any more information on that at this time.
If there are any other commissioners that would be able to make a 3:30 in the afternoon meeting in person, that might be better. I don't want to have to not go later in the year if they resume in-person meetings. I don't know what the alternative would be at that point. What would that be? What would that look like?
I think if it turns back to an in-person or lack of a hybrid option in the future, we could come and have somebody, we could look to appoint somebody at that time to take over the remainder of that liaison appointment is the best idea I have, kind of similar to what we did with the VMT committee when Commissioner Streeter left midterm. And we appointed, you all appointed someone new to serve that.
Heather, how long are those meetings?
Well, if I give you an amount of time, it's sure to not be accurate the first time you go, because it's very hard to guess. I would say it's been a while since I've been at one. I don't think they're the type of meetings that run for hours and hours at a time, but it would depend on what's on the agenda.
Yeah, they run about an hour, generally speaking. When I was the liaison, they were about, and they don't always meet every month. So oftentimes the meetings are canceled. So it really isn't. I mean, while they're scheduled for a monthly agenda, they often do not meet on a regular basis.
I think it was canceled this month for lack of agenda items.
Okay. Well, as the least tenured commissioner, if there's nobody else wrestling for the appointment, then I'll put my name forward and go from there. But if others have a stronger desire, I'll certainly step back.
Okay, well, with that, maybe what I'll do is just call for a request for nominations for liaison to the Tree Advisory Committee.
I will nominate Commissioner Wisman to the Tree Advisory Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
So let's have the roll call vote then.
Okay, Bauer,
Yes.
Alonso,
Yes.
Hooper,
Yes.
Potter,
Aye.
Ryder,
Yes.
Wisman,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Thank you. And I want to extend my appreciation to Commissioner Wisman taking on this responsibility early in your tenure as a commissioner. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to hearing your reports back.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
And thank you for the nomination. I'll look forward to it.
Okay, that brings us to item number 3, which is public comment. And during the general public comment, the public is invited to make comments on items of public interest that do not appear, that are within the commission's jurisdiction and subject matter, and that do not appear on tonight's agenda. So the public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. And I will turn it over to our moderator, Mr. Roberts, so we can hear from the public.
Thank you, Chair Potter. I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time, but I'll ask our attendees joining us tonight, raise your hands using the button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and I'll call on you in the order you've raised your hand. I'm not seeing any hands raised for general public comment tonight. I'll pass it back to Chair Bauer, or I apologize, Chair Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Well, then we'll move on to item 4, which are our committee reports. And the first committee is from Councilmember Delinda Fisher for the Council Liaison Report.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to report from our last council meeting since last we met here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll hear from Commissioner Hooper on the Pedestrian and Bike Committee report out, if any.
We primarily just took a second look at the Rainier Quick Build project we were looking at in the meeting before, but that's all.
Great, thank you. And we won't have a report from the Tree Advisory Committee as we didn't have a representative for the last meeting. And as I said, we'll look forward to the next one. I don't know if there are any other committee reports. Planning Manager Hines.
I can give a couple updates from staff. We have not had a council meeting since we last met. We did have a GPAC meeting on the 15th of July, and the primary discussion topic was environmental justice in terms of that being a new requirement for general plans. So went over some of the data and how we will be looking at that. So that PowerPoint, it's a very dense PowerPoint with lots of information and graphics. So that would be up online for the GPAC meeting, but is an interesting discussion. Let's see, we also had a public art committee meeting last week, and one of the two things that might be of interest to the Planning Commission, one being an upcoming installation of a mural called Women in Science that was done by two young women trying to highlight women's influence in the field of STEM. And that is going to be going up at the library, freestanding in front of the wall that faces Washington Street. So it's a temporary mural. So that it's a lovely piece, and was two young women who really came up with the idea and made it happen. And now it's going to be installed. So that's exciting. The Public Art Committee also approved a request for proposals for an additional small artworks commission that will be going out at the beginning of August. And that is for basically a small artwork to go on public property somewhere on the east side, one of the locations that's outlined in the public art master plan, but specifically looking for concepts for the east side of Petaluma, given that other art installations in the recent past have gone up on the west side. And then another thing that is coming out, we are working to release a request for proposal for an architecture or design build team to come up with permit-ready accessory dwelling unit plans. This was something that we received some state funding to come up with permit-ready ADU plans in an effort to try to decrease the cost barriers with building new ADUs as a way both to provide an additional housing option and a way for people to help offset housing costs themselves so that they could age in place or accommodate changes in life. And so we will be releasing that maybe as soon as tomorrow. We're working on finalizing that. And one other thing, so it's on your radar, we did receive an application for the townhome portion of the riverfront. So the approximately 45 townhomes as part of the riverfront project. That application is in and is being reviewed by staff. So that will come before this body in the future, but it is another component of the riverfront project that has been submitted. And I think those are my updates for the last 2 weeks since we met last time.
Thank you, Planning Manager Hines. And that completes the staff comments as well as the committee reports. Okay, if there's nothing else on the planning manager's report, we'll move on to item 6, which is approval of the minutes from our meeting on July 13th, 2021. Has everyone had a chance to look at those? Are there any changes noted or anyone, or if we're ready to agree as a group to approve them? Thumbs up? Okay. So with that, the minutes of the July 13th meeting are approved. So that brings us to the new business for tonight's meeting, which is the Trinity Presbyterian Church conditional use permit. And we have received the staff report and attachments, and we'll now hear the staff report from, having trouble tracking on the Zoom. But if staff could introduce the item, that'd be great.
Thank you, Chair Potter. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Crystal, and I will be providing a presentation of the project before you this evening. Okay, so I'm gonna begin my staff report with an overview of my presentation. So I'll begin by providing a brief overview of the Planning Commission's role in evaluating the project, and I will follow that with a brief discussion of the project site and context, a project description, the applicable review criteria, comments that have been received on the project, and I will conclude with a recommendation. So as discussed in your staff report, and as I'll discuss in more detail later on, the proposed use, though it's not explicitly called out as a conditionally permitted use for the subject site, is being processed as a CUP consistent with the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, which is also referred to by its acronym of RLUPA. So RLUPA states that land use regulations are required to treat religious assembly or institution uses equal to non-religious assembly or institution uses. And so therefore the role of the Planning Commission this evening is to determine if the project meets the applicable CUP findings, which I'll discuss later on, and also to determine if the draft conditions included in attachment A of your staff report are adequate. The project is located on a developed site containing 2 buildings and a total of 20 commercial condominium units. The use would operate in a single 2-story unit located at the southwest corner of the site, as indicated by the red arrow in this image. Surrounding uses are also labeled here and include Petaluma Poultry to the north, a light manufacturing and industrial building to the south, Adobe Creek is to the east, and then there's existing and a recently approved multifamily residential uses to the west. The site is accessible from Technology Lane and is adjacent to separated bicycle and pedestrian trails to the south and east, which connect overall to Schollenberger Park and some of the recreation areas in that vicinity. Here are a couple images of the site. So images 1 and 2 are showing those separated bicycle and pedestrian trails that I just discussed. So the image 1 is the trail looking south from the side of from the east side of the property here, and then image 2 is looking east along the southern portion of the property line. And then image 3 is showing bike racks that are included at the site. So there are several of these located adjacent to each of the 2 buildings, and each of the racks is able to accommodate up to 6 bicycles. Here are a couple more images. So image 1 is showing the unit where the use is proposed. It would be at this corner unit here. And then image 2 is showing the parking area looking east and immediately adjacent to the area where the unit is located. And then image 3 is showing an existing refuse container on site, which is shared amongst the tenants in that building and would be accessible for the proposed church use. This slide is just showing general plan and zoning designations for the project site and the immediately surrounding area. Discussed in detail in your staff report is more information on these designations. So the site has a land use designation of business park and is within the Lakeville Business Park Planned Community designation. And as such, the project has been reviewed for consistency with those designations. The project's primary operations include Sunday services from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., up to 2 weekday services from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., and weekday office hours from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Other operations proposed by the project include a maximum of 10 special services per year, such as memorials, weddings, conferences, and holiday services. And the applicant has also indicated that there will be amplified music during services. However, it's staff's understanding that this would be limited to 1 person using a microphone and the remainder of the congregation joining in songs and that kind of stuff. When the applicant gives their presentation, I would ask that they expand upon that. And of course, any follow-up questions we can go over. So in addition, this slide is also includes some information on the anticipated attendance at the various types of services. So currently the church's congregation includes 70 members, and it's anticipated that the highest attendance will be at the services on Sundays at approximately 50 members, though it is the applicant's stated goal that they would like to reach the maximum occupancy of 112 individuals. I apologize for this image that I realize the site plan is not coming through super well, but really what I'm trying to show here is is the space that it's going to be operating in. So this is the existing floor plan. This is the first floor on the left-hand side of the screen. Majority of the space is office, and then there's a small conference room and a break room, restrooms, and a small lobby. And then the second floor similarly is primarily office space. And here's the proposed floor plan. So essentially everything is the same here. The only physical construction that would be occurring would be this area outlined in red. And this is to add an additional men's restroom to meet the proposed occupancy requirements. This floor is comprised of non-fixed seating for up to 112 individuals. And then the second floor is primarily where those administrative offices will be taking place. So as I mentioned, the project is subject to several standards of review, all of which are listed here. So in general, the project is consistent with the city's general plan, including policies which seek to promote infill development, encourage the use of space within other facilities such as churches for childcare facilities. It's my understanding that there will be Sunday school services so that members of the congregation that have children can bring their children and they have a space to go while they're engaging in those services. And then also general plan policies that encourage the expansion of facilities within the city to meet the needs of the community. Project is also subject to the regulations contained in the Lakeville Business Park PCD. As I mentioned previously, the PCD conditionally permits assembly and institutional uses, such as schools. And as I mentioned, our LUPA requires that land use regulations for religious assemblies or institution uses must be imposed equal to non-religious assembly or institution uses. So essentially what that's saying is that a conditional use permit for a school has to be considered the same, under the same purview as a church use, because they're both assembly uses. And so that's kind of the intent behind that. And again, we can go over that more later if we'd like. So, and that determination was planning staff working with the city attorney's office to determine that the proposed use was conditionally permitted, consistent with that law. The site is, as you've seen, is fully developed and currently includes 134 surface parking spaces, all of which are unassigned, and that's specified in the conditions and covenants for the property. The staff report discusses parking in more detail, but specifically notes that the project operates during off-peak hours for the other businesses that operate on that site, and as such, parking is expected to be sufficient. I would like to note that during my site visit, I did take a tally of vehicles parked at the time, and there were 28 there, which represents approximately 20% of spaces being utilized, and that was on a Tuesday around 2 p.m. I would also like to note that street parking on Technology Lane immediately adjacent to the site is prohibited. That was one concern that came up during the neighborhood meeting, was parking associated with the Azura apartments, which are located there. I think it can tend to be difficult for people to find street parking, but we did let people know that they cannot park on Technology Lane, at least where the project site is. So in addition, the project is also subject to findings contained in the zoning ordinance and required for approval of a conditional use permit. I've provided detailed findings in my staff report and in the draft resolution, but in general, staff has concluded that the project meets the applicable findings, and the intensity of the proposed use is expected to be compatible with surrounding uses. And the existing site, including the parking, refuse storage, vehicular, pedestrian, and bicycle access, was determined to be sufficient to meet the needs of the use without negatively impacting any of the surrounding uses. Lastly, we concluded that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA under section 15301, which is the existing facilities exemption. So this involves repair, maintenance, and minor alterations that result in negligible or no expansion of an existing building or use. The proposed use that will occupy the existing building involves establishment of the use that was previously analyzed in an environmental document prepared for establishment of the PCD, which was approved by the City Council. So as I mentioned, the applicant team held a neighborhood meeting consistent with the applicable requirements, and this was done back in May. Several individuals attended the meeting, and questions and feedback were generally related to the anticipated attendance at services, parking, noise, garbage and debris cleanup, food waste and shared refuse facilities. There was some concern about rodents and that kind of stuff, but as you can see, the trash enclosure is covered, and primarily the uses will not include any mass quantities of debris or trash. So the applicant team and staff both provided responses to the questions raised, and we have not received any comments since. So similarly, the project was noticed consistent with requirements, and there haven't been any comments received prior to this hearing. So to conclude my report, I am recommending that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving the conditional use permit for the proposed church to operate within the existing space at 1445 Technology Lane. And that concludes my presentation, so I'll go ahead and turn it over to the applicant team.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. And I did want to ask, before we hear from the applicant, if any commissioners have any ex parte communications to disclose. No, it doesn't look like any. So thank you for your patience on that. Now we'd like to hear from the applicant on this project.
Hello, my name is Steve LaFranchi with LaFranchi & Associates. I'm here with our consultant team, Sean Montoya with the Montoya & Associates, Daleen Whitlock with W-Trans, and Pastor Reed Hankins, who is the lead with the Trinity Church. And I'd like to thank Crystal. Is very, another great staff report and presentation. And I think that we'll try to keep this brief, but I would like to introduce Pastor Reed Hankins, and so he can introduce you to the Trinity Church, get some background from whence they came, and their excitement about coming to Petaluma. So I'm going to turn that over to Pastor Reed Hankins. I think so.
It looks like we might have some technical difficulty. Oh, there I see his icon.
Sounds like Pastor Hankins is having a bit of a problem getting on. So if you will bear with me, I'm going to do my best to give you a little bit of background of the Trinity Church.
Please proceed.
All right, thank you. Oh, he says he's trying to restart now, but so I'm going to do the song and dance and slow it down a little bit as I get to my report. So bear with me. Zoom meetings, gotta love it. So the Trinity Church, Trinity Church was established in Novato about 1970 as a mission work for their denomination, the Orthodox Presbyterian Church. And throughout the church planning, the efforts, Roger H. Graham, along with several members of the Covenant Presbyterian Church in Berkeley, who resided in Novato. The Trinity was formally organized as a particular congregation in 1971 under the initial name of the Novato Orthodox Presbyterian Church. Since its beginning, The church has been conducting services in a small space, the Seventh-day Adventist area church in Novato. They've been, as a Reformed and Presbyterian church, their work includes ministry of the word, sacraments, prayer conducted through weekly worship services and Sunday school classes, Bible studies, prayer meetings, and other fellowship opportunities. The pastor and elders provide a pastoral care of the congregants through biblical counseling and visitation. The church also has a ministry overseen by deacons to provide ministry of mercy to those in need, particularly to those of church membership. Current membership includes about 55 members and that of their membership. The church has been looking for more of a permanent home. They've been kind of occupying other spaces. They came across this opportunity, and in Petaluma, we've been working with them. I think they reached out to us approximately towards the end of last year, and we looked at several spaces prior to this, and this opportunity, came up for them when we did show it to Pastor Hankins and some of the congressional members. They were very excited to see this area, the space, and they thought it would just be absolutely perfect for them. And anyway, so we pursued with that, working with the ownership group and the city and Sean Montoya about how to better utilize that space. And anyway, it looks like Pastor Hankins is here, so I'm glad I don't have to do this on Sunday services. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Hankins.
I'm really sorry. I've used Zoom an awful lot in this last year and a half, and for some reason the computer decided to freeze up when I was granted access just a few moments ago. So I apologize for missing what I did. But my name, as Steve said, is Reed Hankins. I'm pastor with Trinity Presbyterian Church. We're a small but vibrant congregation of about, on average, 50 people in attendance on a typical Sunday morning service. We're part of a denomination known as the Orthodox Presbyterian Church, which is a old school Presbyterian and Reformed body, Protestant denomination. We're the only Orthodox Presbyterian church in the North Bay. And a little bit about our Sunday services. Our Sunday morning worship service is a fairly traditional service. We've got hymns and psalms sung to piano music. We've got Bible preaching and teaching. We've prayer. We do the Lord's Supper once a month. We have adult and children's Sunday school classes before the morning service. Crystal asked about the microphones, and yes, we just have typically just myself microphoned up. Congregation sings along to a piano, and so that's about the extent of our amplified sound. This year we celebrated our 50th anniversary just here in May. A very exciting milestone for the church. Believe it or not, we've actually been renting that entire 50 years from the same location in Novato. Our landlord has been wonderful. We're very thankful for the long-term relationship there. But of course, there's no place like your own, and so we're been saving up over the decades and excited about this opportunity that's before us. We really like the property. We really like the complex. We really like the neighborhood. We want to be good neighbors, and I really appreciate the Planning Commission considering our request today. That's all I have for now, and I'll turn it back over to Steve.
And that's all we have is our group. I think it's pretty, like I said, Crystal did a great job explaining the project. And again, we have Daleen Whitlock here, and Sean Montoya, and myself, and Pastor Hankins to answer any questions that the commissioners may have. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you all for being here tonight to share with us your exciting project. And I think what we'd like to do next is go to the public and open the public comment period on the item. We'll hear from the public, and then we'll bring it back to the commission to ask any questions from staff or the applicant. So, Mr. Roberts, if you could facilitate the public hearing.
Yes, thank you, Chair Potter. I see we have 2 members of the public with their hands up. I'll go ahead and share my timer. Okay, and up first is Jim. Jim, I've allowed you to speak. You'll need to unmute yourself, and I'll ask that you please state your name for the record.
Hello, and thank you for having this meeting. My name is Jim Wright. I am a lifelong, or majority of my life anyway, spent in Sonoma County. I've been in Petaluma since 2003. My wife has been in Petaluma since 1977. I spent my 30-year career with the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office as a deputy. And I'm a member, a deacon at Trinity Church in Novato. When looking for a church, I actually had to leave my hometown of Petaluma to go to Novato to fellowship. We have several members that reside in Petaluma. It's always a very good thing when you can worship and fellowship with your neighbors. We are looking forward to this opportunity of doing so in our lovely city here. I believe that this church in the area would be beneficial to those the residents of Petaluma and those in the immediate area. I think that it would be an added benefit to have a good Reformed church in the city of Petaluma. We are good citizens and residents by our commitment of our faith. So we hopefully, prayerfully, I hope you'll consider approving this for the community of Petaluma. It'd be a benefit to the city. And with that, I am done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, for your comment. Up next is Sarah, followed by Marlon Viss. Sarah, I've allowed you to speak. You'll need to unmute yourself, and I'll ask that you please state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Sarah Miller, and I'm in favor of issuing the conditional use permit for Trinity Presbyterian Church. I too am a resident of Petaluma. I've lived here for over 15 years. I work here over at West America Bank in the Washington Square Shopping Center. I work with the general public. I've enjoyed getting to know our community over the years. I love our town. I love being able to go and support our local shops, the restaurants, going to our regional parks, everything about Petaluma. I found my home here. But there's one important aspect of this that I haven't been able to participate in, and that's worshiping God. And that's because I'm a member of Trinity Presbyterian Church down in Novato. I've been attending there for over 41 years. So you could say I was born into the church. My father was the former pastor before he retired. And for us, being able to worship God in a way that is well-pleasing to him with like-minded believers is the most important thing in my life. The church isn't just a place I go to once a week, or these people just people I see for a few hours every Sunday. These are my family. It's my church home. It's something that I would love to share with the community of Petaluma. They provide spiritual guidance, encouragement, love, and they care about my well-being, not only spiritually, but also physically. And I think that's an important thing to have in the community of Petaluma. Therefore, I urge you to consider issuing the conditional use permit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. Up next is Marlon Viss, followed by Edgar Achery. Marlon, I've allowed you to speak. You'll need to unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Marlon Viss. I'm also a member of Trinity Presbyterian Church. I'll keep my comments brief because I know you guys have other things on your agenda. I have 3 young kids, and I wanted to just share how excited we are to move to this part of Petaluma, especially for the opportunities for children's programs in that area. The location, being at the end of the street, is excellent for doing kids stuff, especially using it off hours, you know, nights and weekends when a lot of the surrounding businesses are closed. lots of parking and no through traffic, which is ideal when you have, young kids going to and from the building. The location being close to apartments in the residential area is also great, to be able to provide services to that area as well. The walking and biking trail is phenomenal. Of course, living in the North Bay, we all love getting outside and getting on our trails. And to be that close to a trail that connects to the park is going to be great. To be able to take a bunch of kids, walk down to the park and see the river and do that kind of stuff. It's going to be fun. It's a great location, and I think we're going to be a great addition to the neighborhood. So I also would encourage you to approve the permit. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Marlon. Up next is Edgar Atry. Edgar, I've allowed you to speak. You'll need to unmute yourself. Edgar, I've allowed you to unmute yourself. There is one more hand up, so I will just move on to Susan Kirks for now, followed by Mark Franklin. Susan Kirks, I've allowed you to speak.
Thank you, Eric. I was just wondering what percentage of women are leaders in the church and what role women fulfill as leaders in this particular church. And I wanted to also comment about the location in proximity to Petaluma Poultry. I was just interacting with someone who works for a landscape firm nearby in that same area recently, and he commented about how really terrible the smell is coming from Petaluma Poultry, and people are usually afraid to say anything about it. It is the slaughter and processing facility in East Petaluma, and it does operate at night as well as weekends. So I'd like to ask for the Planning Commission, as you're thinking about future planning and redevelopment in Petaluma, that this facility, as well as the one in West Petaluma, the slaughter facility for other animals, it would be good to begin transitioning and thinking about climate impacts and perhaps how to transition those industries to a different location. I wasn't aware if the church attendees or members were aware of that particular facet of that area. And although it is uncomfortable, I understand to mention it, it is a reality and it is something that many people feel concerned about. Thank you very much for letting me comment.
Thank you, Susan. Up next, once again, is Edgar Atry. Edgar, I've allowed you to speak again. You'll need to unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Edgar Atry. We moved to Petaluma in January with my family, my children, and my wife. We live very near to where the project is, so I'm talking in favor of the project. Every Sunday, of course, we go to Novato, but it would be great for us to have the church near our house. We live in an apartment in Marina Crossing, very close to where the project is. So we love walking. It would be great for us to walk from here to the church. As I work from here to my work every day, I work for Miyokos. It's very close to here. So it's a pleasure for us to live here in Petaluma. We love this city. We love this place. This is the place we want to live for the rest of our lives. And it would be great for us as a Hispanic family to have this ministry here, to have the church that has a Hispanic ministry. Yeah, so it is very important for us, for my family. So that's the reason I'm talking about in favor of the project. And I'm so happy, my family, we are really happy in Petaluma, it would be great for us as a family, as for the community, to have this church, this project ahead here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Edgar. Up next is Mark Franklin. Mark, I've allowed you to speak. You'll need to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. I guess just tell me when it starts.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so me and my family, I'm 26. My name is Mark. My family came from Japan, and we settled here in Petaluma. It's a beautiful place. I'm all in favor into all of this. The church, you know, it has brought me a lot of spiritual joy. I was at a really dark place about 3 years ago, and you know, all of this really has helped my mental state, has helped me and my family specifically. I have a younger daughter that you know, thank God that she's with us. It was a terrible car accident about 2 years ago, and you know, church and everything really helped us. You know, praying every single day to God that everything is well. But no, yeah, I really like this. I like the project. But I'm sorry, just memories. But no, yeah, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And I believe that concludes public comment on this item this evening. And so I'll pass it back to Chair Potter.
Thank you again, Mr. Roberts. And with that, I will close the public hearing on the item and bring it back to the commissioners for any questions of the applicant or their or staff. Councilmember Fisher.
Thank you, Chair Potter. Had a question for the applicant or staff, and that's about where the kids' Bible classes and studies are taking place in the building. I saw on the site plan or the floor plans where the chairs would be for the congregation and then the offices, but I didn't see anything for where classes would be taking place. So I wonder if you can answer that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, to anybody on the applicant team, but I'm sorry, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, I just pulled it back up so that we can take a look at it. But I believe that the services for children would take place on the second floor up here. I think it serves as like an open office area and an area for those services, but I can have the applicant team confirm as well.
Yes, this is Reed. It would be upstairs in those office spaces up there. One of them would be a pastor's office, but the other would be available for classroom use.
Thank you. And the only other question I have is in terms of the trash facilities, does that include composting as well as recycle and trash?
That I'm not sure about. Reed, are you aware whether or not there's composting there?
You know, that's an excellent question. We sure hope so. We would want to do that, but that's a level of detail. Not having occupied the building yet, I'm not aware of that specific question.
Okay, and the reason I ask is we just had a presentation at council on AB 1383 and the need to transition our city to get food out of the landfill, basically. And so obviously you're going to have some food waste, presumably, since you'll be eating there. So just want to make sure that that becomes a condition of approval if it's not already there.
I'm a Petaluma resident myself, and we just got our little bucket for the compost from the company there. So yeah, we're aware of that, and I just don't know off the top of my head about the facility's current setup there.
We'll work with the overall group there to see what we can do to provide that overall, but also for the church facility, that to make sure that whatever they do, in particular, they will they will take care of their needs.
Okay. And I just want to thank staff for putting in the bicycle facilities. That was one of my questions. So I appreciate you having that in your presentation.
Okay, we'll move on to Commissioner Hooper.
Thank you very much. I just have a few questions. My first question is for the applicant. Roughly, and I understand if you don't have an exact number, but roughly how much of the congregation is from Petaluma versus Novato or Marin?
Excellent question. Being the only Orthodox Presbyterian church in the North Bay, we do have a wide pull throughout the Sonoma-Marin area. And so I'd say about roughly half the congregation's from Sonoma County right now, the other half's from Marin. And that breakdown of Sonoma County is maybe roughly between Petaluma and Santa Rosa.
Got it. And then this is would also be for you. I'm just referencing in the staff report, it noted that this helped meet our general plan policy 7-P-4, which has to do with providing community services or support through nonprofits. And I was just wondering, and this is me just trying to get clarification, what kind of services were you, aside from the actual church services, what kind of support were you planning to provide for congregants?
Yeah, if I understand the question correctly, maybe I can speak to some of the services. So beyond obviously our spiritual care, we do not only public Bible teaching and whatnot, we also provide biblical counseling and whatnot for our folks. But we also have, and maybe this is along the question you're asking, we also have what's called a diaconal fund overseen by deacons, in which we take collections periodically to provide funds where needed for those in our congregation. Well, first and foremost, for those in our congregation with various financial and material needs. But in addition to that, we also try to use some of those funds to support local nonprofits in the area as well, who can maybe reach areas that we're not able to. COTS, the Nevada Human Needs Center, those sorts of groups, Marin Food Bank. We've Redwood Gospel Mission of Santa Rosa. We try to support those groups through some of those diaconal collections, so we can have a broader help in the community beyond just our local family needs of our church family.
Thank you very much. And a question I have for staff, with regards to the circulation and traffic flow, that entrance on Casa Grande Road, you're looking at apartments, you're looking at the truck route to Petaluma Poultry, and you've got self-storage. And I can see at least some of those things being pretty active on a Sunday. And also, having been raised in a family that went to church every Sunday, I can tell you half the parishioners, generally speaking, are going to show up on time or early. The other half will show up literally the minute before, the minute after something starts. So I'm foreseeing a potential blockage there when there's really only one major point of entry by car, at least. And I was wondering, has there been any kind of foot traffic or vehicle traffic study to look at what's happening in that area on a Sunday, especially in the mornings when you might see a service?
Yeah, so I can speak a little bit to how we, from the regulations that are applicable, how we reviewed it, and then also Daleen Whitlock, who prepared the VMT analysis, which also included a trip generation, might be able to speak a little bit more to what you're speaking of. But yeah, so we kind of looked at it, in terms of accessing the site kind of right in that immediate vicinity. So you said Casa Grande, so you're talking about sort of the traffic in the general area bottlenecking, right?
Because I'm less worried about so much the traffic generated individually by each parishioner coming in, so much as I'm thinking about what's already happening in that space on a Sunday.
Yeah, I think for that I might pass it back to Daleen, because I'm not really sure what the conditions in the area kind of getting to the site are. So.
Thanks, Crystal. My name is Daleen Whitlock. I'm a principal with W-Trans in Santa Rosa. And we didn't actually look at site circulation and access for this. We were looking at CEQA-related issues, which doesn't happen to include those things. However, based on familiarity with churches and with traffic patterns, generally Sunday morning is the lowest volume period of the entire week. There's not any other time of the week that has less volume than Sunday morning. So the church would generate about 45 trips in and 45 trips out on a Sunday. So it's not a tremendous amount of cars. You're absolutely right that it's sort of like a school where everybody shows up at the same time to drop their kids off in the morning and to pick them up in the afternoon. But the volume of traffic associated with a school is generally 3 to 5 times more than what you'd see at this church. So it's not a very big number of trips, and part of that is that like you said, your family went to church, and in a family you might have 4, 5, 6 people in a vehicle, as opposed to schools. A lot of times it's just a parent and a child, so it takes a lot more vehicles to get the same number of people there. So churches tend not to have traffic issues because of, and predominantly because of the fact that it is on Sunday morning when the roads are predominantly clear.
Right. No, that's fair. My main concern, I guess, was the self-storage unit and the Petaluma poultry. If only, and I just don't know when they get shipments, when people tend to show up at storage. I know weekends generally, or when you might run an errand like that. So that was the only thing that was on my mind. But thank you for answering that question with regards to the church's direct traffic flow. And then the only other question I had with regards to this, I'm just making sure I have, oh, that's right. The only other question that I had with regards to this, for the bathrooms, will there be a changing station in any of them? I know that's a totally different subject, but it was on my list.
Steve or Sean, would one of you be able to answer?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Hoover, could you please repeat that, your question?
Will there be a changing station in any of the bathrooms? That's all.
Okay, I think this was something for Sean can address that.
Yes, so there is none right now in there, but we certainly could add one. We're in for building permit right now, and I apologize, I'm having a bit of a respiratory issue. But yeah, it's certainly, typically we add those anyway. Sometimes they're required by code, but I would think it's a good idea with small children there, even especially for the upper story.
Great, thank you. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Vice Chair Bauer?
Oh, yes. I just have one quick question, and I just really wanted to confirm on, because I didn't see it on the plan, so it's probably not an issue. I may have missed it when you mentioned it, but there are no outdoor play areas for children, right? I didn't think I saw that, but I just wanted to make sure, because often churches do have those, but I didn't see that here.
Yes, that's correct. There's nothing outdoor. So really no changes to the exterior of the building at all. So yeah, no areas. And I don't know if it's kind of, I think in the same vein, but not really a playing area, but, and I'm sure that some of you have probably been back there, but that trail that runs north-south does have a couple of park benches and stuff. So I imagine that the congregation would probably use that before and after services and that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Weissman?
Yeah, just had one question in staff's report under the parking paragraph. It says the site contains 7 occupied and 13 vacant units. And just wondering if staff can provide any guidance of what the pre-pandemic occupancy was like. Has that been consistent for several years, or is that just a kind of post-pandemic anomaly?
Yeah, I'm not actually sure. And I would like to note too that when I went out there, and I wasn't able to confirm this, but I think that some of the units have actually been merged into multiples, because when you look at that sign, there's a sign kind of, directory of everything that's there. And there's a couple of suite units that are missing. And so I assume that that's because tenant improvements from whatever has happened has merged those. So to answer your question, I'm not sure what the pre-pandemic levels of occupancy were like, but possibly maybe Steve or Sean could help with that, because I know that they were kind of helping the applicant in selecting a site, so that they might have a little bit more insight there.
I think Reed had a lot more contact with that, so I'm going to turn this over to Reed as well.
Yeah, I can simply say, Crystal, that's what I have heard, that there are at least some owners in that complex that own multiple units. So I think that addresses your question. I don't know in terms of pre-pandemic or whatnot. We first looked at this July 1st a year ago, and so that was already in the midst of the pandemic. But yeah, I can confirm that my knowledge is that some owners in that complex have multiple units.
So I have Commissioner Alonso.
Oh, no, sorry, Chair. I was going to make a motion, but I'll wait just 1 second.
Okay, thank you. I had a question for Mr. Brady regarding whether it is possible to add a condition on the conditional use permit that relates to how a congregation of people in a church could occur during a health emergency. And I only bring this up because we know in Sonoma County that we've had issues, and I realize that it's probably regulated under certain health codes and police powers, but it does seem like it could be possible, if it were included in the conditional use permit, that we would have an additional way to ensure the safety of our whole community and that everyone's following the rules when a use such as this is granted under the planning code. Just wanted to hear your comments on that.
Sure. So for any conditions, as this is a RLUPA type of case here, it would need to have a compelling interest and be the least restrictive means possible to meet that compelling interest. Compelling interest is typically health and safety, so I think we meet that with the emergency. And is the condition you're thinking that it's used as a shelter, or, I'm sorry, Chair, what is the condition?
No, my thought is that if we could articulate under what circumstances that the gathering of people in an enclosed building was not consistent with the health code, that if that were to occur, it would be non-compliance with the conditions of the use permit.
Chair, I think we'd want to talk to our fire marshal on that, because like you said, I think there already are the health and safety code and fire code regulations that already regulate that. But I think we can work with our fire marshal and try to figure out what the condition could be.
Chair Potter, are you referring to the COVID pandemic in a condition that the church shall follow all applicable regulations to protect the health of Petalumans during the pandemic? I mean, are you just trying to reinforce like a regulation that would come down from Sonoma County?
Yes, and then I would want it to be clear that to not comply with the health orders is a violation of the use permit.
And I'm guessing this is coming up because of in Sonoma County, there has been examples of assembly uses that have congregated in violation of and been found to be spreader events.
Yes, and I think that this could be something we could work on, perhaps if we're interested in taking action tonight, that we could develop it and use it for future approvals for any kind of public gathering where it could be applicable.
Yeah, and I will add that I believe there was a recent Supreme Court case that ruled in favor of the church, that they didn't need to follow, I believe it was even the state of California and Governor Newsom's COVID orders through, as it was a violation of the First Amendment. So I think our office would definitely want to take a good look at that before we condition anything or any future conditions.
Okay, well, that was my only thought. And if Commissioner Alonso is ready to make a motion, or if there's no other discussion on the item, I'm ready to hear that. Commissioner Alonso?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would like to make a motion to approve attachment A, the resolution approving the conditional use permit for the church.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. And Ms. Ellis, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Bauer,
Yes.
Alonso,
Yes.
Hooper,
Yes.
Potter,
Aye.
Ryder,
Yes.
Wisman,
Sorry, yes.
Fisher.
Aye.
Looks like 7 ayes.
Okay, the motion is approved unanimously. And so we welcome the Trinity Church to Petaluma. And that concludes the new business of the Planning Commission tonight. So we will adjourn to our next regular meeting, which is scheduled for Tuesday, August 10th, 2021. So thanks you everyone for your time tonight.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We look forward to being a part of the Petaluma community. Praise the Lord. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
The recording has stopped.